Hello and welcome. This is an information session on Karuna Training, and I'm so happy that you're watching this. We're excited to be offering a basic training program starting in September 2024. And we thought it might be very helpful to walk through some of the information about this program in case you're wondering what is Karuna Training and what's it all about. I'm Melissa Moore, and I've been the steward of Karuna Training since its inception in 1995 in Germany. And Karuna is a Sanskrit word which means selfless compassion, intended to alleviate suffering. So Karuna offers a 262-hour certificate program in contemplative psychology. And contemplative psychology is rooted in mindfulness and cultivates a kind of embodied experience of loving kindness and compassion towards oneself and towards others. The curriculum is derived from an ancient Buddhist practice, Tibetan Buddhist practice, and it's really designed to ripen our skillful means through embodied compassion. And the world really needs our compassion these days. The origins of Karuna come from Naropa University, which is an accredited Buddhist university in Boulder, Colorado. It was founded in 1974 by Chogyam Trungpa. He was a Tibetan meditation master who had a provocative reputation. Nevertheless, he is acknowledged for bringing waves of Tibetan Buddhism into the West, as well as Dr. Ed Podval, who was the original director of the master's program in contemplative psychology at Naropa, where I studied and learned to be a therapist in the early 80s. So I've spent my life offering contemplative psychology and trying to integrate contemplative psychology's wide-minded open-heartedness into Western psychological paradigm and mostly only teaching Westerners. So Karuna first started in Germany, and it was primarily at the time already for people who had their therapist degree and couldn't go to Naropa. But along the way, we uncoupled the therapeutic training drastically from the Buddhist psychology training, and then it became very open to many, many people in many walks of life, and that's still true today. So now it's a 2-year basic program and a 1-year graduate program in contemplative psychology for anyone who's really interested in deepening in mindfulness, awareness practice, and learning how to use the heart as a great transmuter of difficulties. And I think all of us are facing challenges. We are facing challenges collectively. And so I feel like these methods that we train in Karuna are really actually designed for this time that we're going through. In Karuna, we're not training therapists anymore at all. And one doesn't need to be a Buddhist at all to apply to this work. And with practice, Karuna trainees learn to offer themselves through compassionate exchange, which we'll talk about a little bit. And it's really designed to benefit oneself and others in the world through the path of the heart. So Karuna training's been offered in multiple formats since 1996 in Germany, and the Netherlands, France, and Spain, and Austria, Poland, Denmark, the UK, and now in the United States since 2014. We've offered cohorts in Berkeley, California, Seattle, Washington, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Baltimore, Maryland, Los Angeles, California, and Denver. And so now we're moving to a more integrated hybrid format because we have people and students all over the country. So now we will tell you about how we have organized the curriculum this time. But I'm really excited for you to meet the faculty, and so I'll let them each introduce themselves right now.
Thank you, Melissa. And so, hello, everyone. My name is Naoko, and I was part of the first cycle of Karuna training in North America in 2014, where I met Miriam, who is also here with us today. So it's been 10 years, and we've been on the Karuna journey as participants, as facilitators for other cycles, and now as faculty. And one of the ways in which Karuna training has really helped me is to become more connected to my body. And this was really important for me as we live in a world where there's so much conflict and suffering. And I used to ignore or deny my feelings because I felt so overwhelmed. But I found that the space of Karuna training that's created is one that is non judgmental and welcoming of whatever the experience is, so that the pain or trauma that resides in my body can be held in a supportive environment and also felt by others. And that was a very different and new experience for me, and ultimately very healing. And that experience of holding everyone's journey was so different because oftentimes the pain is not seen. We don't feel our own pain, nor is it felt by others. And I learned that the suffering itself was actually not the problem, but something that we could feel in our bodies and hold collectively with enormous compassion.
I'm Emma. Thanks, Naoko. This is my first time joining the Karuna Continuity faculty, and I completed the graduate cycle in May of 2023. So my journey with Karuna, I feel in so many ways, is just beginning. I'd say one of the biggest impacts that Karuna has had on me so far has been learning about intrinsic health and learning that I'm not a problem to be fixed, nor are other people. I had an idea or concept of this before Karuna training, but I didn't really have an embodied sense of what that means. And I think Naoko articulated it quite beautifully, being able to hold that difficulty with big compassion and also with other people, and to also be able to witness other people in their journey and processing of their difficult experiences. I'd say these practices offered me a way to move from something to fix and something to get rid of to having more of a view of something to be curious about. So when these difficulties started to arise in my life before Karuna, I always felt like something was wrong. I was doing something wrong. I was wrong for feeling how I was feeling. And that view always made it really difficult to be open and move through the challenges. So these practices and tools and techniques that I've learned in Karuna have allowed me to soften and open my heart in the face of difficulty.
Thank you, Emma. My name is Miriam. I'm one of the lead faculty members. As Naoko mentioned, she and I started the Karuna journey in 2014 in Berkeley, California as participants, and have since been continuity faculty as Emma is just beginning and now lead faculty. My experience with Karuna training contains all the things that people have mentioned, but what I especially wanted to emphasize on is the power of communal healing. We operate with a cohort model, so we work in groups, we heal in groups, and those relationships and that relationship healing is so crucial. So my spouse and I have a better marriage because of it. I'm probably still married because of it. I have better relationships with my coworkers, with my friends, and most importantly, also with nature and with what we sometimes talk about as the unseen world. So the quality of engaging with energy, engaging with a sense of spirit, and also with the nature and all the elements has improved dramatically, both through being a participant in Karuna and also through leading and facilitating. So all of that is a part of communal healing for me and could be for you as well. I am going to pass it to Naoko, who's going to help us start to look at the agenda for the specific information we're going to share today.
So before we dive into the program itself, I do want to go over the agenda so you'll know what will be covered in this information session. So after the faculty introduction, we'll discuss what is Karuna training, what you'll learn in the basic training program, We'll go over the schedule and the importance of community, and lastly, how to apply and what the cost is and certificate requirements for basic training.
Thank you, Naoko. We're going to come back and talk about what Karuna Training is. So I'm going to start us off. Karuna Training has many different components and parts of the teaching, but at the core, there are three elements. We practice and focus on mindfulness awareness, meditation training, which is drawn from shamatha vipassana. That trains the body and mind to be stable, clear, and strong, and allows space for insight to arise. We're community oriented, as I mentioned in my introduction. So we do a lot of collaboration with each other in our projects and in our learning. We strive for equity and equality in all of our relationships, and we understand that every relationship matters. The friendships that form in your Karuna Training circle are lifelong. And then finally, embodiment, as Naoko was mentioning. Without embodiment, we can't feel. And if we can't feel, we can't wake up. The feeling through embodiment is at the heart of all of our awakening methods in Karuna Training.
So I'll start with what makes Karuna really unique is this ancient mandala that we draw on, a tantric mandala from the Vedic tradition originally of the five Buddha families, which intermixed with the Tibetan indigenous world. And it is a practice. Maitri space awareness is a practice, is really a Buddhist metaphor, or when we talk about space awareness, we're talking about a metaphor for the understanding of the Buddhist understanding of emptiness, and or Buddhist understanding of space, our relationship to space. So I don't like to use the language emptiness because it's confusing. I like to use this language of unbound openness, which we all possess, which is very much connected to our intrinsic sanity. So in Maitri Space Awareness practice, we draw on the five Buddha family mandala, which is this mandala that's been passed to us through Trungpa Rinpoche, purposely for Westerners to use to awaken to a kind of non-binary, paradoxical sanity of the world, meaning the world and its inhabitants are neither inherently good or bad, confused or wise, but both. And right, we know that, but it's very hard to hold that understanding. And part of living a contemplative and compassionately engaged life is understanding the energetic continuum of each of the five Buddha families. And that's where we learn to transmute confusion into wisdom by how we stay with energy. So it's a very interesting exercise of taking different meditative postures and kind of leaning into different elemental energy and emotional energy and enlightened energy all through the week retreats. And so we work with the Buddha family mandala all through the training. In the beginning, we just focus on the elements. And then as we progress, we work with emotional states, both confused and the wisdom aspects of emotions. And eventually we learn how to transmute emotions through offering our heart to others through compassionate exchange, which I think Naoko's going to talk about.
Okay, so compassion exchange. So this is one of the cornerstones of Karuna Training and a practice that we spend a great deal of time refining together in the Karuna cohort. And we use exchange as a basis to open fully and completely to another as a vehicle of basic sanity and compassion. And this is a deep listening practice which is organic to our style of intrinsic help. And this practice of exchange also allows us to go deeper into the issues confusing us today in our society and the world. And this naturally leads us to social action and social awareness. We can use Karuna methods such as compassion exchange as skillful means in these polarizing and very confusing times. And in Karuna, we're encouraged to have an open atmosphere to bring up multiple issues of suffering that marginalize others. And that may include topics like racism, non-binary gender freedom, to native land and tradition reclamation. So we strive to become more aware of our unconscious acts and beliefs that often arise out of intergenerational biases, so that we can work towards collective transformation and liberation together.
So I'll talk a little bit about the 4 different methodologies that we use in Karuna training. I'm going to start over on the right with body awareness. So body awareness is, as it sounds, we cultivate our body awareness through an extension of our mindfulness awareness practice. And by honing our awareness of our bodies and the emotional energies that inhabit them, we can begin to discern the body's messages and cultivate a coherence and attunement with how we listen, speak, feel, think, and we can even begin to act with the whole body. The next methodology is the 4-step practice. And this is a method of learning to stay with uncomfortable energy that's arising in the body. And this practice takes us on a journey through first befriending the energy and then eventually transmuting it into its wisdom energy counterpart. Body, speech, and mind, over on the left, is a group practice that exercises our capacity to exchange with others, and it illuminates the degree to which we project our conditioning onto space. Body, speech, and mind are inseparable aspects of reality that could also be referred to as the Holy Trinity of contemplative psychology. The practice of body, speech, and mind has components that allow us to isolate these inseparable aspects and develop a more nuanced discernment. This nuanced discernment is a speech and heart discipline of learning to trust what we feel and notice how we interpret our emotions. So the last one at the top is speaking from the heart. And this is both a group practice and a fruitional outcome of learning to put to words our emotional wisdom in a way that opens another's heart. We call this mutual recovery because we are recovering our basic sanity and returning to our natural state of openness. We're going to now continue into what you'll take away from Karuna training.
Thank you, Emma. So as Emma was saying, speaking from the heart is both a practice that we do and also a fruitional aspect. And if you ask Karuna training graduates over the decades what they took away from Karuna training, you would get as many answers as you would graduates. But there are 3 pieces that we see showing up again and again. And the first is emotional intelligence. So as Melissa talked about the 5 Buddha families, and as we talked about working with emotion as energy in the 4-step practice and other practices, understanding that staying with emotions, we can actually find the wisdom within them instead of trying to block them. When we block them, we actually miss out on the wisdom and perpetuate confusion. The framework of the 5 Buddha families also includes, as I was saying in my introduction, quality of working with each of the elements: wind, earth, water, air, and space. Those elements give us a way, it might sound funny to talk about those related to emotions, but they give us a way, both metaphorically and through direct experience, to feel into the energy of emotions. The second aspect is skillful communication. So listening from the heart, speaking from the heart, listening with the body through compassionate exchange, and speaking our microscopic truth. So there is a principle in Karuna training that communication is a part of our every moment experience. It's not just when someone's speaking and we're listening. We receive communication from the world and we offer it all the time. We've also referred to compassionate exchange, or the quality of exchange of picking up vibes and tone in an atmosphere. So learning to get clear about the communication we're receiving and what we're offering is very empowering and allows us to then speak up against oppression and injustice and be heartful in our relationships with others. Finally, last but not least, that body-centered wisdom. We keep mentioning embodiment. It's a really key principle in all of our practices. We work with emotions, energy, and communication, as I've been mentioning, but all of that and the collective healing are all based in the body. We focus on our felt sense experience, so getting to understand our moment-to-moment experience in our bodies. Many of us are dissociated from our bodies or disconnected, because of trauma or simply because of the way that we were raised, we'll do it gently and slowly together. We learn how to tune in and actually be able to even play with the energy in our bodies and with our bodies themselves. So that's a bit about the content of Karuna Training and what you'll learn. I'm going to send it over to Naoko next, who will talk more about the schedule and some of the brass tacks.
Yeah, so here is the program schedule for basic training. The program runs from September 28th this year with our first residential retreat and ends 2 years from now with a residential retreat on May 29th, 2026. And there's one other residential retreat midway of the program in June of next year. And so you'll see there are 8 seminars in total, including the 3 residential retreats, and all the other seminars meet online. So in essence, this is a hybrid program to accommodate people's busy schedules and also to make it more accessible to everyone. And in Karuna Training, the relational aspect is very important. So we start with a residential retreat that is meant to build our community at the very beginning and develop connections and go deeper with the practice. And the residential retreats last 7 days, and the online course includes classes that meet for 3 hours at a time. And in all of our offerings, there's a mix of teachings, practice, body awareness exercises, and experientials, where we apply the teachings or concepts that we can take into our lives. So that's the basic structure of this program. There's also a project requirement that is introduced in Seminar 6, where you'll be bringing Karuna methods into your community, and everyone will make a presentation of their project in our last residential retreat. But you have from September of next year to May of 2026, so there's plenty of time to work on this, and you'll have support from your mentor and community continuity groups. So that's a brief summary of the program schedule. I also want to point out that there is ongoing group interaction and support in between the seminars, and Emma will talk more about that.
Awesome. Thank you, Naoko. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the different ways that you'll be invited to connect with the faculty and your cohort throughout the training. So the first way that you'll be invited into connection is through cultivating a study buddy in the cohort. And this is just somebody that you choose, you connect with, could be one person, could be multiple, but it's really an opportunity to study the material together, kind of work through it, and also develop the relational aspect of the practices with somebody in the cohort. So the second way that we're going to, or you'll have an opportunity to connect with folks is going to be through the one-on-one mentoring sessions that you'll have with me, one of the program faculty members. And this really comes up during the project and when you're working on the 25-hour compassionate exchange project that Naoko had mentioned in the last slide. So then the third one we have here is going to be your continuity group. And Naoko had also mentioned this, and this is going to be a smaller group of the entire cohort that you meet once a month for regular check-ins, to review some of the course material, and to deepen the practices. And these continuity groups are led by the continuity faculty. And yeah, like I said, it meets once a month and is a smaller group of the cohort to deepen your understanding and continue to learn and dive through the material. The final piece here is going to be Circle, which is the online platform that you'll have access to, similar to social media, but slightly different. You'll be able to make posts, you'll be able to share reflections, and you'll be able to connect with both the faculty and your cohort through this platform. You'll also receive invites to the different meetings and sessions. They'll be posted to the platform as well.
Thank you, Emma. So I'm going to talk about the Karuna certificate, which is what you receive at the end, a 262-hour certificate. And we do offer continuing education units, 97 in total. And we charge a little bit extra for those, for the therapists who are collecting them. The Karuna certificates are valuable, and they've offered many of our graduates over the years really directions in livelihood. And even one person has attained licensure in Canada through our certification. So to complete a Karuna training and receive the certificate, you need to attend 75% of the training, including the 3 in-person retreats. And so everything else in between, as Naoko mentioned, is all online coursework. And then also the assigned continuity groups. We take attendance continually. And if you're getting lower than 20%, we let you know, and you will know, obviously. If you're missing too much, it's really a commitment not only to ourselves, but to the greater cohort that we're signing up for. The 3 residential retreats, we really prefer that you not come late or leave early for those when possible. And if you have to miss a retreat, we can only allow you to miss one in order to receive a certificate. Online courses occur on the 3rd Saturday of the month and meet for 3 hours. And then the continuity groups meet in time zones. So really it's about a 4.5 hour a month commitment plus whatever you do with your study buddy. And you get out of Karuna what you put in. So you need to complete the 25-hour project in the community that was mentioned, and that has to be signed off by your mentor. And these projects, by the way, you shouldn't feel intimidated by, because they're very much tailored to your life and what you're doing. We really want it not to be an extra project, but something you're already doing, and bring engaged compassion down to earth in your life in a very practical way. So then the other piece and final piece to receive the certificate is you need to pay us in full, which we're very lenient about the payments. So we can set up payment plans. So I'll let Naoko tell you more about the application process and tuition costs.
So I'll go over the application process and tuition. The cost of the program, as well as the CEU costs, are listed here. And it's pretty straightforward, so I won't go over the details, but just want to note the early bird discount that expires on August 1st if you pay in full. But what I do want to cover in detail is the application process. And there are 4 key pieces to this. First is the online application process. We strongly recommend that you consider applying before July 31st so we can avoid rushing through the process. And then once we receive your application, we'll contact you to schedule an interview with the Karuna faculty. And this is for us to get to know you better and to hear from you what you're looking for in this program, answer any questions, and also explore whether this is the right training for you. Now, once your application is accepted, we'll send you a contract to be signed. This sort of makes it official. And the last step is the tuition payment. Now, the first payment will be due before our first residential retreat. So today we covered the program's highlights, but our website has all the information about basic training. We hope that you will consider joining the program and become part of the Karuna community. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact us, and we hope that this was very helpful.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Hope we'll see you soon.